Discipline, sacrifice. These are certain goals that I have and things that I want to achieve. I'm going to have to sacrifice that and be disciplined in my pursuit.
You may know Kendall, an Olympian, a world champion, and most recently, the 2024 U.S. Olympic Trials 400-meter champion.
I've never been shy about speaking about my anxiety. I don't have a problem speaking about it. I know people have tried to make me feel as if I shouldn't, and I shouldn't discuss it as if it's something negative. If you are doing all the things properly, nutrition and your training, and well, why not add a mental health professional? See it as an additional resource. I think about little 7-year-old Kendall. If she had heard someone being like, hey, yeah, I have these same feelings you're having, I think I would have been so amazed and been like, oh my goodness, she can do all these things. She's feeling the way I'm feeling. Even if I don't achieve everything I want to achieve in the sport, if I continue to talk about it and with what I have already achieved, if that can inspire someone else and make them feel more comfortable in it and not alone and ashamed and embarrassed, then I'm good. I've contributed.
Kendall Ellis is the fastest when?
Kendall Ellis is the fastest when?
Today on MINDFRAME, I'm joined by someone whose story embodies both resilience and a relentless pursuit, Olympic runner Kendall Ellis. You may know Kendall from her legendary race at the 2018 NCAA Championships, where she came from behind in the final stretch to secure the victory for USC, a moment that went viral and inspired runners around the world. Since then, she's become an Olympian, a world champion, and most recently, the 2024 U.S. Olympic Trials 400-meter champion. But Kendall's story is more than just medals. She's been open about the challenges behind the scenes, from managing anxiety while performing on the world's biggest stages and navigating the intense mental pressure of elite competition, all of which we'll be diving in today as Kendall is currently preparing for the 2028 Olympics right here in Los Angeles. This conversation is for anyone chasing a goal, whether you're a runner, an athlete, or simply navigating what's next. We'll get into the tools Kendall uses to reset after setbacks, stay mentally resilient, and keep showing up with purpose. With that being said, Kendall Ellis, welcome to the MINDFRAME podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I'd love to just jump right in and hear about your journey with running early on. So you grew up in Fort Lauderdale and quickly emerged as a standout runner in high school. When did you first discover that passion for track?
Yeah, so I am the youngest of 3 daughters, and my parents were very, very adamant about we had to get A's, we had to play an instrument, and we had to play a sport. Wow. And so I started with basketball, didn't like it. And my mom said I came home from elementary school and I was saying how fast I was, how I was beating all the boys. And she was like, okay, let's go do something with this and see what happens. And so she signed me up for track at 7, and I've been running ever since. And so I think at different points in my career is where I was like, okay, I'm really good at this and I enjoy this. And that just kept happening year after year.
Awesome. Amazing. And when you first came home saying you were really fast and getting into track, were any of your parents athletes? Was a career in sports something that ever crossed anyone's mind early on, or was that kind of something completely foreign you all ended up embarking on?
My dad used to play basketball, not professionally or anything, but that was like the closest we got to an athlete in the family. And so I think it was a really new thing for my parents and I to kind of foster that talent and see how far I was going to take it. I don't think it crossed any of our minds that this would be my career 20 years later.
Yeah, no, awesome. And so how did they start to support you as you started down this journey?
Yeah, I have such distinct memories of when you're younger, you track meets are like all day long, like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., 9 p.m. You're there forever. And I have so many memories of my dad being out there with me under the tent and then calling in my mom to like tag team her and have her come stay with me when he had to go through things for work. And my sisters were incredible. You know, looking back now as an adult, it's like, yeah, my sisters sacrificed a lot to make sure my parents were always at competitions and how much time my season and my schedule takes up. And so they've always been really, really good about, you know, prioritizing my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. It definitely, I guess, does end up being a whole family event. My dad coached me in tennis for a little while, so it's also an interest. I kind of experienced that dynamic of a parent coaching you. What was that like for you it sounds like your dad was pretty involved.
Yeah, thankfully they were never like those overbearing parents who were like, you have to do this, you have to do this and that. It was just they wanted me to do a sport and I chose track and that's just what I happen to be really good at. And so I remember my either third or fourth year running, my parents sat me down and they were like, you know, you're acting like you don't want to do this. Like, you're not trying at practice. You don't want to go to the meets. Like, so you know what? You're not going to run this year. And
Wow.
they took me out for the season and I was so upset. I remember crying and being devastated, like, no, like I want to do it. And they're like, no, like this is how you're acting. If you're not going to put your best foot forward, then you're not going to do it. And so they sat me out for the year and I had so much fun. I sat out the next year also. So it kind of backfired on them.
Yeah.
But they've always said if you're not enjoying it or you're not trying or you're not putting your best foot forward, then you're not going to do it. And that's just kind of how I've approached everything in life at this point.
That's so interesting that they did that. And it sounds like maybe the second year it backfired, but then what was that switch, I guess, after that second year?
I think just being an early preteen, kind of like angsty, moody, and like going through puberty and was like, I don't want to do that. I want to have fun with my friends.
Totally,
and then it was like, I miss this. It's something I enjoy. I like running. I liked going to practice and I had track friends. And so I think I missed the fun and the camaraderie that came with the sport at that age.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. And then when you got back into running, I guess I'm curious, especially for people who aren't runners, if you could explain a bit about what goes into being a good runner, I guess, aside from the physical, also the mental.
Yeah.
I think that as someone who's less familiar with the sport, I kind of see it. I like, okay, you just run as fast as you can towards the end goal.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's so much more that goes into it. So curious, well, in your words, what makes a good runner, I guess, more on the mental side?
Definitely. I would say one of the biggest things for me has been discipline, as well as sacrifice. And, you know, because the physicality of it all, yes, coming to practice, putting your best foot forward and all that, but the discipline of knowing that, like, in a sense, it's a 24-hour job. It's like, I need my 8 hours of sleep. I have to eat properly. My job doesn't end because I left the track or I left the work site. It's still going on constantly, and the decisions I make today can affect me for a race next week. And so I think having that in the back of my mind, like kind of as a constant thing, is like, well, I can't travel to go to this family event because I need to be here for practice. And I know I have better practices when I'm with my coach. And so sacrifice in that sense, but the discipline and the knowledge of being like, these are certain goals that I have and things that I want to achieve. I'm going to have to sacrifice that and be disciplined in my pursuit.
Yeah. What keeps you motivated when you're making those sacrifices, I guess?
The end goal. I think really just knowing that these are the steps I have to do if I want to achieve this certain thing. It's not just going to happen. It's not just going to be handed to me. This is what I want. And so these are simply the steps that it's going to take to get it.
Yeah. Well, I guess, what is your end goal then?
I feel like the easy thing to say is like medals and winning and championships. Like that's great. And like, of course, what I do want from the sport, but I think ultimately for me, that kind of serves another purpose. Once you have the medals and you're on the podium, you get more visibility, and that gives you the chance to tell your story and impact others and get to have connections. And like that's really what I'm excited about in the sport, and like what really keeps me motivated, getting the chance to showcase my story and get to tell it and see who it reaches.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Well, you've already been so open with your journey, especially on the mental health side, which I'm also really interested in getting into. But I would say you were already doing that, but excited to see like how far that goes. So I love that. I love that goal that's associated with the sport, but also beyond the sport as well. That's awesome. So going back to your earlier days when you were first getting into track and field, what were those kinds of, I guess, things you were starting to learn early on when it came to being in a more competitive environment and really starting to see the transition from this sport being something more like for fun to something more serious and competitive, I guess.
Yeah, I think for me that realization was very early on. I didn't have the language for it because again, I started running when I was 7. And so I would recognize when it came time for race day or I had to get to the line, like, butterflies in your stomach, but more severe. And so it was like, I'm needing to throw up and I'm like really panicky and shaky. And like, as a 7-year-old, everyone's like, oh, you're just nervous. Like it's simply nerves. But I'm like, this feels a little more than like getting nervous before a test or something like that for me. But not having the language and the knowledge of what anxiety was. So I think from the very beginning, I've always had that experience, but that's my norm and that's been my norm for so long. But I think once I got to high school, it was kind of like, okay, there's a new pressure of this is how I can pay for college. Cool. Like, that's nice, but I do need to do certain things in order to achieve that. And then I got to college and it's like, okay, well now I'm in college and everyone on the team is a state champion like me. Like everyone's accomplished the biggest thing in our career up until that point. And so I think each new level I've hit has brought new pressures with it. And it's been a matter of like adapting and adjusting to each new thing.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing you've been able to work through all of that. I guess curious, at 7 years old to be having, I guess, would you say it was like a panic attack?
Yeah, I think it was a panic attack, you can say.
Like panic attack, throwing up. I feel like that, as you said, is beyond the normal level of nerves. So is that something that you brought to your parents, to your coach, and how did you start to navigate that early on?
I think at that age, we all just kind of chalked it up to nerves. Like, again, my parents are new to the sport and having an athlete in the family. And it was kind of just like, okay, she gets really nervous but she gets the line and then she competes and she does well. And so, okay, it didn't really become a problem or a conversation until, and I think I'll backtrack a little bit. I think I also felt a sort of like stigma and shame around it as well because I didn't fully know what was going on. I didn't know if any of my friends were feeling this way or any of my teammates. And so it's like, I don't want to tell anyone the extent of this because no one else was talking about it. But I think it really became cause of concern I think my senior year of high school before I went to college. There's a track meet called New Balance Nationals. And I was the state champion in Florida my freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year of high school. And my coach would make me go and compete at New Balance Nationals every single summer because I'd come in ranked like top 5 every time, never performed to that level. I would never perform the way I should have. Like I ran fast at states 2 weeks before and then I came here and it was terrible. And it was a repetitive thing every single summer. And I hated it because I knew what was coming. And so then it became a conversation before I left for college, like, we love you so much. It was really like an intervention, like sat me down and like, we love you so much. We hate seeing you suffer. You are so talented and good at the sport. Like we know how far you can go. We hope to see you continue to do that, but we don't want to see you do it like this. Like it seems miserable for you before you have to walk out there. And we don't like seeing that. And so that's when they introduced me to a sports psychologist and that like really did some things for me.
Yeah, no, amazing. What were those interaction with the sports psychologist like for you?
I remember our very first session. I didn't want to go, of course. Like, I'm upset that my parents dragged me there. And I didn't say a word the entire time.
No way.
I did not speak for the full 60 minutes. He was talking. He was like, what's your name? Like, how are you doing? And trying to, like, get things out of me. Not a peep.
Wow.
And I commend him because he was like, okay, like, we're still gonna keep pushing through this. But before him, I did see a few others that just weren't the right fit. Like, even though I wasn't happy to be there with him, I was like, okay, he seems like the most okay. So it took a bit to find someone who was the right fit for me. And then once I sat down with him and finally opened up out of my shell and decided to really discuss, it's been great. Like he's been my sports psych for 10 years now at this point,
since high school,
maybe over that. Yeah, since high school. So
that's awesome.
It's been a great experience with him.
Yeah. So is he a sports psychologist or a therapist or a
sports psychologist?
Okay. Okay. And have you also done like more traditional therapy or focus on the sports psychology?
I do traditional therapy. I like to have a sports psych and a traditional therapist for like my personal life because I don't really like discussing them both in the same session, and there's kind of too much in both for that. So it's nice to have them separate.
Yeah, no, awesome. I've also worked with both and have kept, I don't know why, but kept it separate as well. It kind of feels like they're two distinct, well, obviously some overlap, but deep dive into different things with each. But very cool. And so when you worked with that sports psychologist, what were some of the tools he started to implement so that you could start to better manage those nerves pre-race?
Yeah, I think early on initially, it was kind of figuring out what my triggers were because, again, I didn't have the language for it, didn't know how to articulate it. And so he really helped me with like, okay, what are things you're doing before the competition that is giving you such anxiety? And I remember I used to, such a bad habit in high school, in early college, I would like, it's called a heat sheet, and that's who you see, like who you're racing against essentially for the competition. And I used to like Google their names, check their times, check to see the last time, what they ran, the last meet, and like all this. I knew like every stat you could know on the person, and it would freak me out every single time. So I'm like, oh no, she's faster than me. Like she's gonna beat me. And he was like, well, let's stop doing that. And so helping me identify certain things like that of like, let's cut this out. And then one of the big things we did was visualization.
Cool.
Which was something I just hadn't thought of doing because the thought of a competition made me so weak in the knees, let's say. And so he kind of helped me reframe that, like, well, let's start tricking the brain to think you've already done this 1,000,001 times. And so really helped me lay out visualization. Journaling was something we worked on, and we tried to get into meditation, and that's one that just like didn't stick for me.
Yeah, that's okay.
Maybe we'll go back at some point.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. So the visualization, was that visualizing pre-race and like being calm before a race, or was it visualizing the actual race?
It was everything leading up to it. Like it would be, you know, we worked our way, the more skilled I got at it, like we worked our way up adding additional things. And so like initially it might be, we're just going to visualize the first hour before the race. Now we're going to visualize when you're at the hotel, like before you even get on the bus headed to the track. And then now you're in the car room. What does that look like? And then we're going to do the actual race itself and visualize what that looks like. And so we were adding on piece by piece.
That's awesome. I think the tricky thing with visualization is at first you feel like it's not working and you're kind of doing this, and I've done this a lot. I just stop because I'm like, I don't feel the change immediately, but I know it's something I want to continue. So I guess curious, how did you push yourself to just continue doing that even when at first it feels like nothing's happening?
Really just forcing it. And there were times that I stopped, and there were times I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like it doesn't even work. But it was really like, I hate this feeling and the feeling feels so bad that like, I'll try anything. Like, okay, like if you say this is what I need to do. And we were getting down to the nitty gritty, like so much so I would go on YouTube and like play crowd noises and close my eyes, or like go back to past races so I could hear the announcer like call people out and like say our names and stuff, like really honing in on those details. But really just like I spoke about earlier, just discipline. It's like acknowledging that I'm doing all the physical practice, mental that's requires practice as well. And so that was something I also have to dedicate specific time to work on, literally just in my schedule, in my day to day.
Totally. Yeah. Very cool. When did you feel like it started to work? Yes.
I would say I like started to feel, it's so, you know, mental health is such like an up and down kind of thing. It's not linear. And so there are some competitions where it's like, oh, I feel great. Like I can feel this working and like I'm being effective at using my tools and coping mechanisms. And then there are other meets, it's like, nope, I forgot everything you taught me. And like, I don't know what to do. And that was a conversation I also had with my therapist of being like, what do I do when I can't remember any of the tools you taught me? Or like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, well, let's go to the basic one. Let's go to your breathing. Like that's one that like we can always go back to and something like that. And I would like bring my notebook with me to meet so I could like read it in the hotel and start really committing it to memory so that I wouldn't have these moments of like I'm so freaked out and panicked that like I can't think of a singular thing. And so trying to calm myself down so that it doesn't get to that point where I'm able to actually use the things we've worked on.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think it's really cool when you do realize how malleable the brain actually is. And I mean, as I said, I haven't accomplished that with visualization yet, but with other things, when you're suddenly like, oh my gosh, I actually am just doing this much more intuitively now. Or I've trained myself out of even like looking up your competitors. That sounds like an easy thing to stop doing. For you, I bet that wasn't easy.
So hard.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and then suddenly one day you probably just like don't even think about it. So it's very cool. Yeah, the little reps can go a long way. That's awesome. And I guess curious, like you were saying, a lot in that first session, you didn't say a single word to the sports psychologist. And I think a lot of people are nervous to seek out like a sports psychologist or therapist. What would your advice be for someone who is maybe kind of thinking about it, but is scared to take that step?
I would say view it as a tool in your arsenal. Like if you are doing all the things properly, nutrition and your training, and you're seeing your physical therapist and your chiropractor and all these people, why not add a mental health professional to your toolbox and your kit? Like see it as an additional resource and not something that's like, oh, something's wrong with me, and so I need to go to this person, and like view it as a weakness. It's just, it's strengthening. It's another form of strengthening.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I'm also curious, you had these very strong like reactions pre-races, like the anxiety. I think a lot of people would avoid that thing that like gives them so much panic.
Really?
No, but I so admire that you were like, I'm going to stick through this. Was there something that motivated you to stick with it? Was it just like the love of the race? Curious.
I think it's like, one, I think I'm too talented to stop. I like really wholeheartedly believe I'm incredibly talented at this. And if I can do this and my brain isn't even like all the way there, I'm like, imagine when I get it correct and what I can accomplish then. But it's also just the fact of, I've never been shy about speaking about my anxiety. I don't have a problem speaking about it. I know people have tried to make me feel as if I shouldn't, and I shouldn't discuss it as if it's something negative or something that I should shy away from because it'll look bad on my part. But I think about little 7-year-old Kendall. If she had heard someone being like, hey, yeah, I have these same feelings you're having and I'm competing at the Olympics, or I was at World Championships and I was Olympic trials champion. It's like, I think I would have been so amazed and been like, oh my goodness, like she can do all these things and like she's feeling the way I'm feeling. So even if I don't achieve everything I want to achieve in the sport, if I continue to talk about it and with what I have already achieved, if that can inspire someone else and make them feel more comfortable in it and not alone and ashamed and embarrassed, then I'm good. I've contributed to the sport.
I love that. That like is so inspiring. And even when we first met, you had started talking a bit about anxiety and performance at a panel presentation. And I've definitely experienced anxiety both in sports and even like ahead of podcasting and such. So hearing you say that, it definitely inspired me. So wanted to share that, and I know you're inspiring so many others. So
I hope so.
Yeah, no, really, really awesome message. Okay, and then I'll transition back into kind of your progression. So we talked a bit about your early days. You were racing really well in high school, realized you couldn't get, sounds like you had a scholarship to run at USC. So what was that transition to going to USC and starting to run like on their team, and I guess taking that next step and the environment of running competitively while you're at USC?
Yeah, that transition was a bit tough going from high school to college. Just the academic transition itself. I did go to really rigorous high school, but still it's college. And now you're managing this course load with also being an athlete on top of that. And like I said, everyone was successful in their high school careers. They're at USC. And so it's like trying to get in where you fit in, but also not shrinking. And so it's this weird balance of, I want to do well, but I'm also just the freshman and I'm nervous at practice and like I'm nervous at competitions. And so that first year was really tough for me, especially coming in with the new coach. I had had the same coach from 7 years old to 18 years old. And so I had only ever been under him. I only had to work with him. I've known him 10 plus years at that point. And so coming into a new coach, it was kind of like, I don't know you, sir. And so who are you to be telling me how to run and this and that? And so that was a really tough transition for me to try to get my feet wet. And it wasn't until I think junior year that I really started to lean into the coaching and buying into it and listening, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's where I started to see a lot of success in my career.
Cool. Very cool. And did you, I imagine it was another like incremental step of anxiety of this, like continuing to have more pressure as you kind of accelerated in your career. So were you it sounds like continuing to work with your sports psychologist and really using those same tools as you transitioned to USC running?
I want to say yes, but in reality, I think it was no. Okay. I of course still had my sports psych kind of like in my back pocket, but I think it was so much of being in Florida, then going 3,000 miles away, adjusting to college, adjusting to a new team, adjusting to a new coach, trying to figure out how to run at the collegiate level. There was just so much going on that I really didn't prioritize that relationship. And so I do think that was probably another reason why like I suffered a little more than like I had to, just because I wasn't maintaining like the tools that I had learned to an extent, yes, but not nearly as consistently. And like I said, with the practice that it requires.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I guess I'm just curious before I forget this, how did you find your sports psychologist for people who are interested in finding one?
My high school coach, I don't know where he found him, actually. We had that conversation, but I genuinely don't remember. He's such an extrovert and talks to everyone, so he could have ran into him at the grocery store and brought my name up. But it might have been like a friend of a friend or something along that line. But he was like, I met him, thought of you. Here you go.
Love it. Awesome. Well, so it sounds like it was really lucky that you found him early on. That's awesome.
Definitely.
So I want to get into the 2018 legendary comeback race that you had at the NCAA Championships. But before I get into that, I'm curious if you could explain when you're starting a race and running a race, what is going through your mind, I guess, generally, or that you're aiming to have go through your mind in those moments?
On a good day, not my average day, but on a good day, I am excited. It's like very rare that I am excited for a race and like looking forward to it. And so it's a balance between like, I'm not overworked, but I'm looking forward to it and excited to see about how the race plays out, how I'm going to do. Pretty peaceful warm up, like not racing thoughts, but just like, okay, I need to execute. I'm a very logical brain, which is like so difficult for me with anxiety because that like feels like two such battling minds. But typically I'm very logical and like business brained. And so I am going through like, here's what I need to execute. Like he told me to push out the first 45 meters. I'm going to get to 45 and then I'm going to push out of the curve. Then I'm going to maintain on the backstretch and really just going through my race pattern and my race plan and kind of just repeating that over and over again. And then get to the line. I'm like, okay, like smile, wave, do our little thing, lock back in and go over the race pattern again and then try to execute it in the race. And a good race, they're like no thoughts really. Like
interesting.
Yeah, I don't think I'm someone who really has thoughts during a race. If I am thinking, I'm like, oh no, something's wrong if I can clearly hear my thoughts. But most of the time, it's a pretty blank slate and I'm on autopilot. Like I know what to do.
Wow, interesting. So you're really thinking about the strategy you and your coach laid out and then ideally aren't having other thoughts. I think that's the hardest thing is to not have other thoughts. Like telling yourself not to think. How do you do that, I guess?
I think I don't know. I don't know if it's just being so focused on a task at hand of like, this is what I need to do. And that's I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing. And so I think that's also a part of it. Just like, this is what I'm doing now. And so this is what I'm going to focus on. Like my phone's on do not disturb. I don't, me and my coach, we barely even speak much when I'm warming up. It's like, he's been my coach for over 10 years at this point. So we have a really good communication system. And it's kind of like with one look, it's like, she's got this. We don't need to discuss, or like, okay, remember this, that, the third. I'm like, okay, that's enough. And we're good. And so I think it's really just being locked in on, I have a task to accomplish.
Yeah. So not trying to not think at all, but focus on the strategy and just kind of direct your thoughts to that.
Yeah. And, if an errant thought kind of comes in, it's like, okay, like, let's divert back to what we were focusing on. Like it's bound to happen. I'm human, but it's kind of just like, all right, acknowledge you, back to what I was thinking about before.
Yeah, totally. And you also mentioned, so before because I think different people pump themselves up for a race or a sport in different ways, either like get super calm or get super excited or focus on having fun. Like, how do you think about getting in the quote unquote right mindset for yourself ahead of a race? I'm
definitely a need to calm down type of girl. Anxiety already has me like jumping out of my skin. And so I don't need the music. Right. I don't really need anything extra. I think for me, it's like trying to get myself as calm as possible. And so a lot of the times in the hotel room, I'm keeping it like, I try to keep it like a normal day. And so like I might listen to a podcast, or I'm watching Netflix, or like sometimes I'll even like call a friend and FaceTime with them like leading up to it, and then take time doing my makeup and doing my hair and just regular things that like trick my brain. It's like, this is just a normal day. Like this is just what we do every day. Like you're not about to go compete.
I love that. It's such a balance, I think, of focusing on what you need to do, but also I like that tricking your brain into it's a regular day. I think from when I've been playing tennis, for example, and I'm totally 100% focused on it, or even a test, and I just fixated on it all morning, those are the times I perform the worst. Yeah. And so I really like that, tricking your brain, making it a normal day, and then once you get there, 100% focus on the strategy that you have.
Yeah, when it's time, it's time. But there's no reason for me to be thinking about it 4 hours beforehand. Like now I'm exhausted and I feel emotionally too much.
Yeah. I totally resonate with that. That's awesome. Okay, so now that we've heard kind of that's average or slightly better than average for what you're aiming to do each day, I'll bring up the NCAA 2018 race. So I guess that was an amazing, stellar performance day, like 10 out of 10 across the board.
Yes.
For anyone who hasn't seen this race, I'll play a clip of it for everyone to listen to it. This clip has got 1.6 million views on YouTube. Oh, wow. Yeah. I didn't know that. Yeah. I looked it up last night, and that's how many views it has. And it is incredible to watch that race. And so all the commentators are saying, and the runner from Purdue is in the lead, very much ahead of everyone else. You, I think, are around fourth or fifth when you get the baton passed to you, and suddenly you just see you take off and you just overtake everyone and win. I think in like the last split second, literally. And the commentators were saying like it's over, Purdue's won. Like everyone else thought it was over. What was going through your mind during that race, if anything at all, I guess?
I will say it's impressive watching it back. I impressed myself as well. But like in the moment, the angle that I'm at, I was like, oh, she's not that far ahead. Watching it back, I was like, oh no, she was far ahead. But in the angle, I'm like, she's not that far ahead. Like perfect. The year prior, I had made the mistake of getting out way too hard, and I ended up dying and getting like caught at the end by someone else. And so with that in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, learn from that. I'm going to be a little more conservative, and kind of just got to 200 to go, and I was like, oh, I'm not even tired. Like it's over. Like I'm not tired. I feel good. Let's go. Nice. And that was it. Like that was kind of like the final thought I had of like, I'm not tired and I can catch her. And that's exactly what happened. And so
I love that. So you kind of knew, okay, she's been in the lead for a while, but she's probably tired. from
Not
what you
even a
experienced?
reflection of her talent or ability. It was just
Okay.
like, even if she's not tired, I know I know who I am.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
like,
that's
I know that
awesome.
I can catch her. Like,
Yeah. And was that part of your initial strategy to just go all out at the end, or are you making those adjustments while you're running based on how you're feeling or what the others are doing?
a little bit of both. I think,
Okay.
like I wanted to be more conservative in the beginning, just to kind of like survey the land, see like what was going on, and just be smarter.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I typically have a really good finish, and so it was like, okay, once I felt like I'm not tired and I still have 200 to go, perfect. Like this is grounds for a great race for me. I didn't know it was gonna be that dramatic, but
Yeah.
knew I could catch her.
Was there anything you learned from that race in particular that you have kept with you?
Yeah, I think this, like, the saying, it's not over till it's over. I
Yeah.
think that's really how I felt in that moment. Like, because, watching back, hearing the commentators, like, oh, it's over. She's not going to catch her, rada, rada, rada. It's like, okay, there's always going to be outside noise. There's always going to be someone saying, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it,
Yeah.
whatever. But, like, it's literally not over until it's over. Like, you have no idea how the story is going to end. You have no idea how the race is going to end, no matter what your assumptions are. And so kind of just quite literally staying in my lane, minding my business, and relying on my own beliefs and like what I know my capabilities are, despite whatever else is being said.
Yeah, staying in my lane, no pun intended. I love that. That's awesome. And I guess I was just when you were saying from your perspective, it didn't look like she was that far ahead of you. I guess when you're running, you don't know how far behind you people are either. Is that true?
I have a habit of like looking up at the like scoreboard or
like while you're
screen.
running? Okay, so you can
So
kind of
sometimes
tell.
I'll be like,
Okay.
let me glance up and check like where I am in
Okay,
comparison.
okay,
But
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, very cool. And I guess I'm curious what percentage, if you could put a percentage on, do you think is mental in your sport?
ooh, oh my gosh, that's so hard. I don't want to say, I feel like it varies by person because I don't
That's
want to
fair.
say 50-50, but it's like if I might have 70% talent, someone else might have 90% talent. Someone else might only have like 40%, and they have to do a bunch of other things to try to like be at an equal standing of someone else. And so like, yeah, I have to say it's a person by person case.
For you, what do you think?
It's probably like 60% mental for
Yeah,
me. I really
yeah.
don't think I have that much talent.
That's awesome.
And it's this little brain that's like
Yeah.
tripping me up a bit.
Yeah, no, I think it's cool to have that self-awareness though. And yeah, that race in particular made me feel like it was a really mental
Yeah.
sport because you just see you take off and everyone there is in the top 1 point or
Right.
0.1%. So like it must be the mental that allowed you to do that, which is kind of where that question was stemming from. And I guess, how did you feel when you finished that race?
I felt really great. That was my senior year. And so my last time running, representing USC in that uniform. And we'd been trying for the 3 years prior to win a national title. And so, it was nice that we finally did it as a team.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how big that moment was or was gonna be. Like, I didn't even have Instagram on my phone at the time. I had to like re-download the app, and I came back to like 3,000 new followers, and I was like, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was like all over
Such a big
SportsCenter
deal.
and like
Yeah.
ESPN, and I had no idea. And so like the feedback that I got afterwards was really cool, and just people reaching out, not for my own ego boost of like, look how great I am, but it was nice to have people reach out and be like, I don't even do sports, but like this inspired me to do this, that, and the third. And just kind of, like I said, I care about my impact like larger than the sport and beyond that. And so
Yeah.
that was nice to see like that being met in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. I've seen this. Have you heard of this guy? His name's Jim Quick. He's like a brain scientist.
No.
Definitely recommend his stuff on the mental side of performance. But he does this thing with his audience where it's like turn to your right as much as possible, and you do it, and then he says like visualize that you can turn like all the way to face the back of the room,
Okay.
and then do it again. And people do it and they go like way further once they visualized it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So I don't know why that came to mind, but I feel like when you were saying, I just knew I could do it, and you were like basically seeing yourself do it, and then you did it. And going back to the visualization piece, I think it definitely has. It sounds like woo woo in a way, but it actually has like physical implications, like when like that turning example.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's cool. I have to look that up.
yeah, definitely look it up. But yeah, it just reminded me of that when you're saying it. And I couldn't find an interview of you after that specific race, but I did find another race where you also had a similar, like the baton was being passed. There was kind of a fumble of the baton being passed, but then you still didn't let that bother you and ended up winning that race as well. And afterwards, the interviewer asked you about that whole situation, and your response was, I know who I am, and I knew it would be okay in the long run. And then he said, and who are you? And you said, I'm Kendall Ellis, and I'm here to make some teams. And it was just so badass. Aww. I was like, what a response. No, I loved it. But I think what it showed was like such a strong sense of identity that you had when you said, like, I know who I am, and it'll be okay in the long run. I guess you probably don't remember that specific moment, but why
I do.
you do?
I think it was 2022 trials, maybe.
Okay. I think
or
so.
Or like 2019, 2021. I don't know. One of them.
Do you know why that is what you said of why identity was so important for winning that race?
I think because it's what I've always gone back to. You know, I won't be an athlete forever. I think fans can be very fickle. One race they love you, the next race they hate you. And so I have to stay grounded and rooted in I know who I am as Kendall Ellis, especially with so much, again, noise and social media. People can say so many things about you, and you can kind of start believing that narrative, whatever it may be that they're creating. And I don't want anyone else being responsible for my narrative. I'm going to choose to believe what I want to believe about me and like who I am. And so in a sport like this, even though it's not the most, popular sport, we're not football players, but in a sport and in a career where it's so public facing, I think you have to know who you are, or like it's so easy to get swept up in the good and in the bad.
Yeah, I love that. When it came to your performance, why does identity feel like something that's so important? Is it to block out the noise basically in those moments?
I think so. I think it's like a reminder for myself, not so much other people, of being like, I have never felt, maybe not never, but very rarely do I feel the need that I have to prove myself. I don't feel like I need to convince you to believe something about me. It's for me. It's to remind myself of who I am and like, yeah, I can make teams, I can do hard things, I can run fast times, and I'm Kendall Ellis and there's no one else like me. Like that's just the fact of the matter. And so
yeah,
I think it's like a self mantra and a self affirmation of, yeah, remember this is who you are at the end of the day. And like without track, with track, you're still you still have you.
I love that. That's such a good message. I think having that strong sense of identity so that it's also not tied to your performance or external validation is really important, because it can be easy to depend on those things for that validation.
Definitely.
How do you think you've developed that sense of identity?
I was thinking about that earlier, trying to figure out where that came from.
Yeah.
And I haven't come up with an answer yet. I don't know if it's become out of necessity, like kind of survival mode of like having done this since I was 7 years old. And I've always been talented in the sport, to be quite frank, and kind of a defense mechanism of needing to protect myself. And like, okay, there's always going to be things said about you. There's always going to be commentators and fans and interviews and this, that, and the third. And so I don't know if it was created out of like, I'm going to make sure I remain safe in this and that I know who I am at all times. But I also have to give credit to my parents and like my friends and the people I surround myself with, because they have never seen me as just an athlete. Again, it's always been, if you don't want to do it anymore, you don't have to.
Right.
And I really appreciate that. And so conversations I have with my friends are almost never about track. They have to like pull it out of me of like, hey, like you're going to the Olympics. Like that's really cool. And I'm like, yeah. But like, did you watch Love Island?
Yeah.
So like it's things like that that keep me grounded and rooted in like, there's so much more to you than being an athlete. Like I remember a partner at some point, he was like, that's kind of like one of like the least interesting things about you. He's like, it's super cool. Like, yeah, they're like, oh, like, are you impressed with her? And he's like, yeah, she's really impressive, but like not for that. Like that is so awesome and I'm proud of her. But like knowing her as a person, like those are the things that like you would really love her for.
Oh,
and
I
so
love that.
yeah, I think just the people I surround myself with do a really good job of like, yeah, we love you with or without track.
Yeah, I love that. That's such a amazing way to look at it. And also just to, I think when you're pursuing a goal, you do need to have blinders on in a way of like, I need to optimize my life in a way to get to this goal. But it also shouldn't mean that you put to the side building the type of person you want to be and the impact you have on others, and not putting blinders up in that way.
Right.
I think is a really cool way to look at it as well. Cool. Well, you mentioned the Olympics. Let's talk about the Olympics. So what was the road to becoming an Olympic athlete? You ran in USC. What was the journey from being a USC athlete to making the Olympic team?
Yeah. So how it typically works for track and field, you run in college, you can leave early or do all 4 years, run well enough to get the attention of an agent, and then that agent goes out, talks to different shoe companies, and then you sign with the shoe company and you are considered a professional track and field athlete. And so from then on, I mean, you can make the Olympics in high school, you make it in college, you don't have to be professional, but my journey was I was professional for New Balance, and then my first Olympics was 2021, Tokyo. And granted, we all thought it was going to be 2020. And so we're training for that during the year. It got canceled and postponed. And I ran at Olympic trials, my first Olympic trials, and I got 4th place. And so anyone who doesn't know, top 3 for the 400 are who get to go and run the open 400. And if you get usually like 4th to 8th, maybe 4th to 6th place sometimes, you are considered for the relay pool. And so I made the team, but it's like that heartbreaking 4th spot where it's like I'm just one from being in the open 400, but bittersweet of like, yay, I'm going to be considered for the relay, but also I wanted to run the open 400. So
Okay. So you made it for the relay team, and that's what you went to Tokyo to run. Did you know the other girls that make the team, or is it like a brand new team that you are introduced to?
Yes and no. I think just being in the sport for so long, you kind of see the same people over and over again, and it's a pretty small community at the end of the day. And so I knew who they were, but didn't necessarily have relationships with them, but like know who they are, know their stats. No, of course I know their stats, like what they do and stuff like that, but not they weren't people I was training with every single day or anything.
Yeah. So do you then start to train every single day to build that? Like
not even. It's
together?
so
wow.
I know, like it's so, especially for the US, because we have so much talent and there's such a depth of it. We don't know who's going to be on the team. You know, for some sports, they find out like a year in advance or like 9 months that like, oh, I made the Olympic team. We don't find out until our trials, which is essentially a month to like a month and a half before the games. And so from then, after trials, you go back to like your personal coach wherever you train at, and you do that. And then for the 4x1, they might come out like a week early and train with each other. For the 4x4 and the mixed relay, it's less, it's not as fast and it's not as intense of like a baton exchange. And so we kind of just practice 2-3 days before and then go out there and do it together.
Wow. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Only 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, it's definitely not like months in the works or anything like that.
Wow, so interesting. I guess it's like you're responsible for your one piece of it and you put it all together, or how do you think about it? Does it feel like you're one unit working together, or it feels like you each own a separate chunk of it?
It feels like we each own a separate chunk of it, but are working towards the same goal.
Yeah.
And so when I run relays, it's a lot of, yeah, I want to do well, but like, I also want to do well for the next person I'm handing off to. Like, I want to make sure I put you in the very best position. So a combination of both.
Yeah. Amazing. And so when you showed up for Tokyo, it was your first Olympics. It was 2021. So no spectators and things.
No, empty.
Yeah. What was, I guess, if you could just describe overall the experience for you.
Yeah. Controversial opinion. I loved the empty stadium.
Yeah. Wow.
I've never said that out loud publicly.
Interesting.
I loved it as a girl with anxiety.
Fair.
Not having to go out and see like hundreds of thousands of people staring back at me.
Yeah.
And it for being my first Olympics, I was like, whew, this feels like a baby step. Like, this feels like a baby step. It feels like preparation for like the next Olympics. And so disappointed that I couldn't have my family and friends there, of course. But like, I was like, okay, like this feels kind of good. But it was a great experience. I mean, really excited to be in Tokyo, disappointed that we weren't allowed to leave the village because of COVID. And so that was a different experience, but because it was my first one, I had nothing to compare to. Yeah, so it was just like, cool, like we're in the village, like we're at the Olympics, like how cool. Yeah. So really just like, this is all I know. And so some of the vets were like, no, like it's not like this, but as far as I knew, that's what the Olympics were like for me. So just soaking it in as a first experience.
Yeah, makes sense. I've heard people who I've talked about really like playing off the energy of the crowd or like using the crowd to their benefit. Is that something you've ever? No. Okay. No, I'm just curious.
Yeah, it like does. It's so funny because my training partners, I like talk about that. And he's like, I love the thrill of the crowd. Like that gets me so excited. I go out and I look at them and I'm like, please don't look at me. Like I don't want to be perceived. I don't want to look back at you. No, I don't have that experience with the crowd.
Totally fair. Prefer to block them out.
Absolutely.
Very fair. Nice. Okay, and then so you win gold. Your team wins gold for the Tokyo Olympics. What did that mean to you, winning the gold medal?
Yeah, it was exciting. I ran in the preliminary heat, so it's like preliminary heat and then finals. And so my job was to get the girls into the final, and that's what we did. And so I think it's like 8 of us, I think technically, who like win gold together. But that meant a lot. It was exciting, and it was nice to like be a part of that in a sense. I think I also have a bronze from the mixed relay, and I think for me that was really exciting because that was the first time I got to be a part of the final relay, and I was the one who got to have the medal placed on my neck and like stand on the podium, and so that was really exciting. I know it's not gold, but like for me and to me it was like I'm so super proud of it and was really excited for the experience.
Yeah, amazing. Well, congratulations. Both the medals are here. It's amazing to see them in person. Very cool. And I feel like so much time, dedication, sacrifice went into those. So Definitely. It's amazing to see them here with us today. And then after you finish Tokyo, I've heard competitors talk about this like post-Olympic depression or slump. Like maybe, I don't know if it was the same with Tokyo because there wasn't a crowd and as much energy maybe. What was it like shortly after the Tokyo Games for you? Did you experience any of that?
I would say very minimally. I think for me it was kind of it was less of, I know a lot of people say that, well, what now? Like you won gold, you competed on the world's biggest stage. Like what after this? And for me it was like, well, I try again in the next 3 years. And I try to do better in 2024. And so for me, because I didn't accomplish what I had wanted to, there was still a level of like hunger and motivation for, okay, we take a couple months off and then we get back to training and we keep on going and try again. So thankfully that wasn't my experience, but I see how it could be a bit of like, well, what's next? Like you've achieved the highest level that you could achieve. Now what? Nothing else is going to compare to that. But again, like you said, also because it was a COVID Olympic experience, there was still like, okay, what else is there? What is a normal Olympic experience like?
Yeah, makes sense. And especially since you have these goals of sharing your story, making an impact, I imagine that also like fuels you to continue. Right. Like every day on the track, it sounds like. And so in terms of what you're working towards next, you have Worlds every year, and then every 4 years, the Olympics. So is Worlds the next thing that you are working towards right after?
Yes, Worlds, things got a little jumbled with COVID, like having things
Yeah,
move. But
yeah.
yeah, Tokyo was Olympics for 2021, World Championships 2022. Yeah.
Cool, cool, nice. And then you had your sights set on Paris for the next Olympics. What is, I guess if you could explain a little bit about the process of, you have to keep making the team again, right? Like,
Yes.
to go to Paris, the following Olympics.
Yeah, there are trials every single year. And so trials for World Championships that year will determine if you go to trials and Worlds, trials and Olympics are in the same year. And so
Okay.
you have to find out if you make it essentially every single year. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And you make it on the Paris team to compete in two different events. What was it like showing up to Paris? And this time there's a crowd, so much more energy. Like, what was it like walking into Paris this, compared to Tokyo?
It was exciting because one, again, a true Olympic experience, but also because Tokyo had been so, kind of, I don't know if cloistered is the word, but like isolated in a sense, like
Yeah.
they were extra, extra like excited about it in Paris. And so it was like a double whammy of the Olympics are back, like we get to like see it fully and
Yeah.
kind of just being like older and more mature and like feeling a little seasoned, like, oh, I have one Olympics under my belt. And so like now it's less bright-eyed, bushy-tailed and more of like, okay, cool, like I can really like be present, and it's not like every little thing that's like, look here, look there. It's like, okay, you've been here and like you've seen these things, and so it's a little, it felt a little more like normal. That's the word I want to use, but like more
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah.
It felt a little more familiar.
Cool. Yeah, amazing. And so for the, sorry, what, you came in ninth for which event again?
The 400.
The 400. So you came in ninth at the 400. I heard you talk about in an interview, people are always going to start commentating on how you performed.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have an opinion sitting on their couch, like not doing it themselves. But for you, you felt good about how you performed.
Yeah.
I guess curious, yeah, overall, you came in ninth. How did you feel about that? And I guess, especially having medaled in Tokyo, how did you feel like in general about the performance
Yeah.
yourself?
I had won US trials, and I think coming in, there's an expectation of like, you're US champion, like we are such a talented country in this sport. And so like, there's an expectation of, oh, you're probably going to medal at the Olympics. Not a guarantee, but it's the expectation that I think most people hold. But that's not the expectation I held for myself. Like, ultimately, that's what I want to do. I think you don't go into any competition being like, I'm going to aim for ninth place. But that's where I fell. And this Olympics, there was something called the repechage round. And so if you didn't make it out of the first round, you went to the repechage round. It was basically a second chance to like try again. And I can acknowledge that anxiety got the best of me in the first round. And so I failed to advance to the next round, ran in the repechage round the next day, which was incredibly difficult to do because I was so disappointed. I was so sad. I was saying that like, I want to go home. Like, I just rather be done. I don't want the second chance. If I didn't make it in the first round, then I just want to be done. And my coach and I had so many conversations and like had conversation with other teammates and just what it took for me to get to the line the next day, that morning, and compete in the repechage round was so much. And like, I was so proud of myself for showing up and doing it. And then getting through the repechage round and being able to compete in the semifinals was like, I'm happy. Like, it took so much for me to dig myself out of that hole and show up the next day and run in this round. I'm happy. And I gave everything I had in the semifinal round, and that landed me at ninth place, which was the first spot out of the final. And so I just missed the final. And my coach and I, we hugged afterwards. We smiled. I was like, we've had such a great season. He was like, we have. Like, it's been an incredible season for you. And I'm like, we did what we could. Like, you saw where we were yesterday, trying to dig ourselves out of this hole. And he's like, agreed. So like, my coach and I are so close. Like, so he's been my coach for over 10 years at this point. And so we have a lot of history. We have a lot of competitions under our belt together. And so to get ninth place wasn't some, I don't know, damning moment of like, she got ninth place. It was like, I got ninth place.
Yeah.
I did what I could and I did my best. And like that is the best I had to give that day. It doesn't take away from any of my other accomplishments, doesn't take away from my season. My coach and I are proud.
Yeah.
And ultimately, like, that's it. Like, he's proud, I'm proud, my family's always proud of me, win, lose, or draw. And like, I got ninth place in the Olympic Games. I was the ninth fastest 400 runner in the entire world.
Yeah.
So I can't, no one can make me feel any shame or disappointment about that.
Yeah. I love that perspective. I think that's a really powerful message of no one knows what you went through internally to get to where you did. And so again, going back to that like sense of identity and trust in yourself, like, you know what it took to get you there. And so only you, like, you being proud of yourself is the only thing that matters, like, at the end of that. So that's a really cool, like, background to that whole experience. I guess I'm also curious, what you were talking about, digging yourself out of a hole of the anxiety and disappointment. Mm-hmm. What does digging yourself out of a hole look like? Like, were there any tools you and your coach or sports psychologist were implementing to like get you ready for the next day?
Yeah, it was like it was really disappointing and like just kind of a shock of like what just happened. Like, no way did I not advance to the next round. And so I sulked. I definitely sulked and like was moody and upset. And like I said, I was like, I'm not going to run tomorrow. Like, that's just it. I'm going to be done at the Olympics. And hey, that's my experience. So be it. And it was like, I don't even know if my coach and I had a conversation, because I think he was a little shaky on whether or not I was going to show up to the line the next day. But I think once I was there at the track and like ready to talk, and he was like, okay, listen, he's like, you're in a hole. And he's like, I have the ladder. Like, I'm reaching down the ladder for you. He's like, all you have to do is climb up. Aww. He's like, I'm here. I'm holding it. Just climb up. That's all you have to do. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to climb up the ladder. And then when I finished the race, he's like, I told you. Like, I told you I had to be here holding the ladder. All you had to do was climb it. And so that was kind of a moment of like, okay, it's me and you. Like, we can do that. And like having that, you know, having another person. No one can run the race for me. No one can run it with me. But like kind of having that in the back of my mind of like, someone has my back. Like, no matter what, someone has my back in this. And so I think I felt like I kind of owed it to my coach. Like, he's putting in all this effort. He put in a lot of time and hours with me at practice. I owe it to him and myself to at least try again. And if I don't succeed, whatever succeed means, okay. But we have to try.
That's so brave too, because it's so public and you know there's going to be some sort of commentary.
Of course.
So it's very brave. And when your coach says he's holding the ladder, just what did he mean by that? Like, that he was there to support you no matter what?
Yeah, and he just meant like, no matter what, like, I'm helping you. I'm here to help you in this. Like, we've worked hard. Like, you can do this. I've seen you at practice, and like, all you have to do is get to the line and try. Yeah. Like, I promise it's going to work out. Like, you're going to be okay, but like, you at least have to go out there. Yeah. That's the step that you have to take. I can't do that for you.
Yeah. Were you doing any of the visualization, breathing, journaling, or was it
breathing? A lot of breathing and journaling, for sure. Yeah. A lot of like, because even in the first round, my breathing was so all over the place, and like I was on the edge of a panic attack and whatnot. And it's difficult to go out and compete when you were just fighting to breathe like 45 minutes prior. And so definitely focus on my breathing a lot more in the next round, and that night before, that morning, journaling, writing, and just kind of trying to get all the emotions I was feeling out of my body and out on paper.
Yeah, what do you do when you journal? It's just writing down everything you're feeling?
Usually how I feel, what I'm hoping for, what I'm confident in, like the race pattern, what I'm going to focus on. But yeah, a lot of trying to get my feelings out, because my anxiety presents itself very much physically. And so trying to get that those emotions out so that my body isn't emotionally taxed.
Yeah, very cool. And the breath work, is it just focusing on breathing?
Literally, yeah, like
Yeah.
nothing special, not like just deep breath in, hold for a second, deep breath out. I think
Yeah.
it's like the 3-5 or something, like breathing technique or something.
Yeah, or like box breathing,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I think those tools may sound simple, but can be really powerful. So, super helpful. And then wanted to ask about the second event you were meant to participate in. So you were meant to participate in the 4x400. You were told 4 minutes before the race
Yeah.
that you were not going to be competing. What was that like, if you could just explain what happened? I mean, working so hard to get there and have that happen would be hard for anyone to process. So,
Yeah. I'm going to try not to cry because
I'm sorry.
I know you're fine because I haven't processed it. I think the event itself was really disappointing. Like just the way it happened, like being told you're going to compete in something and then waiting until like I'm going that entire day. I'm like, okay, like I'm getting mentally prepped. Like I'm telling my family, like, yeah, like get tickets to today because I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Like my partner, my agents, like everyone's really excited, like telling friends back home, like, here's when you can tune in. And so it's like, okay, like, you know, I didn't do well on the open 400, but like, this is my chance to like, you know, show everything.
Yeah.
And so to be told so last minute when I could have been told hours prior to was like, it felt like a literal, not even a slap in the face, not even a punch in the gut, I don't know, a stabbing in the heart. Like,
Yeah.
and it's like other people knew before me as well. And so it's like everyone's watching me warm up and I'm like doing this and that. And it's like everyone knows but me and my coach. And so we're just like, okay, like everyone's looking, like I looked like a fool, like to everyone. And so the event itself was difficult. Like, yeah, to have that happen and like still, like I said, trying to process it and be like, this is the world's biggest stage that I was really excited about and looking forward to. Sorry.
No, you're so fine. You're so fine.
But it was like the aftermath, I think that was really difficult. Like I posted about it on social media and it was like the backlash that I got was so insane.
Wow.
And
From just people on social media?
yeah, just people on social media.
What was
like
the backlash?
right, shocking, right? Because
Yeah.
what can you possibly be upset about a girl being disappointed that she was told 4 minutes prior that she would no longer be running? But
Yeah.
it was met with like, you ran so poorly in the 400. Like, why would you think you'd be on the relay? Like, you're lying. That's not what happened. I was getting DMs like, you're the worst member of Team USA. Like, this whole thing of like, well, you didn't deserve to be on the relay. Like, you suck. Your career. Like, all this stuff.
Wow.
Without holding space for acknowledging, like, regardless what you think of my performance, whether it lived up to whatever expectation you had for me, I am still human. I'm still worthy of respect, communication, basic decency, kindness, empathy, compassion, like
Yeah.
all of the above. My athletic performance doesn't determine my value as a human. And so anyone, whether I won the 400 or I lost the 400, I deserve the basic decency of being told much earlier than 4 minutes.
Completely. Yeah.
And so most people get that. Twitter, not so much.
Yeah.
Twitter,
Yeah, that's shocking.
Twitter, not so much. And so, you know,
Wow.
there was, of course, some like positive being like, hey, like, guys, anyone would be disappointed. Anyone would be upset if they thought, if this is what they were
course.
told and that's not what happened. And like, she has a right to feel upset and hurt and like sad about it, you know? But then there's like an overwhelming majority that's like bombarding me with like things that are irrelevant. But that was
Yeah.
like the hardest part, I think, for me. Like the event itself was already difficult. Yes. But like, I don't know, I can work through that one day.
Yeah. No,
But it was like
totally.
that aftermath of like, whoa, what's going on? Like that is still really difficult to deal with.
No, 100%. It is amazing that you keep putting yourself out there and keep going for it, even having gone through all of that. I can't imagine, sharing a disappointment like that and just it being met with such like animosity online. So, like, very, I don't know, like, kudos to you for continuing to go and like continuing to inspire people, because that, it would just be so disappointing for anyone. I also think it's a part of the sport that no one sees, that there's this, like, I guess, politics and behind closed doors that we only see what's like televised on the screen, like that there's this whole other element that you have to deal with of other people who are making decisions that directly impact, like, if you're able to perform.
Yeah. And I think it's important. That's part of the reason I spoke out on it. Like, granted, yes, it's like, okay, you get upset and you like run to social media to say something about it. But it's also a matter of like, I was also having, beyond speaking about it publicly on social media, which some people hated it. Obviously, some people loved it, whatever. But like, that's not all I was doing. I was having meetings with higher ups. I was having conversations to make sure that something like this didn't happen again.
Wow.
Because, I speak of identity and sense of self. Like, I like to think I have a pretty thick skin, but like to another athlete this were to happen to, we preach mental health and all these things, but like another athlete might not have been able to handle that. Like, I'm barely able to handle it. I don't think I'm like the strongest of the strongest, but it I lost my train of thought where I was going with that or why. Oh, but yeah, there was more than just a social media component of it. It was like meeting with higher ups and having conversations and saying, what can we put in place to make sure this doesn't happen to another athlete? How do we protect our athletes? How do we have a better relay system in which athletes feel like they're heard and like they aren't dismissed and that they're not left in the dark and they're confused about things, so that everyone's on the same page. And so things were put into effect afterwards. I hate that I had to suffer for it, but really grateful that like something came out of it and that, we'll see what it actually looks like long term. But
yeah, amazing. Well, that's amazing. You turned it into something positive that can, like, you're leaving it better than when you arrived and are actually making a change in the system. So that's really powerful that you were able to channel it into that positive direction. And thank you so much for sharing. I know that is still painful, will be still painful for anyone. And amazing that positive change is coming from it. And now, I guess, pivoting to, we're post the Paris Olympics and the LA Olympics is on the horizon. So LA 2028. How are you preparing for that now based on your whole journey so far? What are you focusing on to get ready for the LA 2028?
Yeah, I think LA 2028 will probably be my last Olympics. Okay. I'll be 32 at that point, and that's kind of oldish in the sport, like getting up there a bit. And so I think leading up to it, honestly, I don't have a fleshed out answer for you. I think I'm in the process of figuring that out, kind of just, again, dealing with the remnants of Paris and trying to build myself back up into like being excited about the sport and like being excited to compete and like what that means for me and like what that looks like for me and like my own terms and definition. And I'm really planning on spending the next few months and like leading up years figuring that out, what that means for me and what that looks like. Again, always end goal is like make an impact, leave it better than you found it. I'm just hoping that comes with some gold medals along the way as well.
Love it.
But I think just kind of finding my joy again in the sport and finding like the excitement and really, really hoping to, I got a glimpse of my potential in 2024 with winning trials.
Yes.
And that was a great taste of like, okay. And so I would like to really go all in on that and see just how fast I can run the 400.
Yeah, no, I love it. Do you think it is, I guess, going back to the 50-50 mental or 60-40 mental physical, really, I guess, focusing in on both those sides of things in these next few years?
I think so. I remember I had a conversation with my therapist, not my sports psych, but just my therapist. And she was like, I don't know, you kind of approach track like this means to an end. She's like, it seems like you kind of like, you go, you do your thing, like you're talented. And so it's working out for you. And she's like, what if you just like really tried? And she's like, not to say you're not trying, but she's like, what if you like really, she's like, you have all these plans for like when you retire and like, you know what you want to do, this, that. And she's like, what if you put all that into just like what you're doing right now with track? And I was like, I guess I could give that a shot. Like, that never really crossed my mind, but like, okay. And so I think really, really leaning into that and just being like, I put so much, I don't know, effort and interest in like other things. It's like, well, what if we just went 110% in on this and like see what you get from it? And so going 110% in on the physical and the mental as well. And so seeing where I land if I do that.
Yeah, amazing. Well, very impressive that you've got this far. If it hasn't been 110% already. No, very cool. I think it makes sense. Like, it's easy to be looking into the future and like future planning and putting energy like into the future. So bringing some of that into the present and seeing what can happen is great advice. Well, I'll definitely be cheering for you for the LA 2028. Super excited. And I think a lot of what you shared is really inspiring for so many people, especially people who have anxiety and maybe feel like that means they can't do certain things because that's an obstacle for them. So it's really inspiring that you've spoken out so openly about your experience with it. Super inspiring to hear all of that and some really like tangible tips too. So I really appreciate you sharing. Okay. I'm going to be going back to my visualizing and journaling and everything. And I have a few final like quick mindset questions. Okay. So do you have a favorite mantra or quote you return to before competition?
Yes, it kind of changes how I'm feeling, but for the most part, I am enough. I am capable. I deserve to be here.
I love that. What's one mental skill or mindset practice you wish more athletes learned early on in their careers?
Early on. I think just that it's okay to talk about how you're feeling. There's no stigma, there's no shame around it, and I don't think anyone should make you feel that way, but it's okay to talk about it, how you're feeling.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are embarrassed to share that. Maybe. Yeah. So with your family coach, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. This was written in by a listener. Kendall Ellis is the fastest when blank.
Kendall Ellis is the fastest when she's her most balanced self.
What do you mean by that?
I am someone who has to be happy both on and off the track. I don't think I'll ever be able to operate, no pun intended, but one track minded. I can't, even though I'm going to give it 110% and all that, I still have to have other interests, and I still need to see my friends on the weekend, and I still need to be social and do other things. And so when I am all those things and I can cater to all the facets of Kendall, I think that's when I'm my fastest self, because I'm my happiest self. I'm my most balanced self.
I love that. That's awesome. That's very cool. And then last question, what is the one thing you would want others to take away from this conversation when it comes to their mindset?
I would want others to take away that your value and your worth is not determined by your career, your accomplishments, or what others say or think of you. You are valuable and worthy because you simply exist.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful. How do you think you have come to that conclusion?
My entire career. I would say my entire career. It's been so much of thinking if, I accomplish this or I do this, maybe the announcers will say my name more, or maybe I'll get invited to this track meet, or this, that, and the third, some external validating source, and trying to chase value. And that just isn't sustainable and it's not realistic. And so, again, we always come back to that sense of self and identity, but like staying rooted in that and constantly reminding myself of that. That's where my value and my inherent worth like live, not in anything else.
Amazing. That is super powerful. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here again. Super inspiring. Thank you for being so open and sharing your story. I'm really excited to share this with our listeners, and again, have really tangible takeaways that I'm even going to start to practice from this, and really excited for where this rest of this journey takes you.
Thank you. This was so fun. Thanks for having me.